Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to run such a gender-diverse panel today.
I can be woman.
Let me just introduce our panelists again. So some of you might have already met Seng Wong from Singapore, Spark Systems, a serial entrepreneur and a VC. Then we have Andrzej Sałasiński from the national or state? National Capital Fund.
Say national.
Krajowy Fundusz Kapitałowy. Then we have Adam Kostrzewa with the State Development Bank, not National Development Bank. And then we have Bartosz Sokoliński with the Industrial Development Agency.
Great.
Yeah.
So actually we have a very interesting mix of people. We have three Polish gentlemen who are responsible in a big chunk of financing innovation and boosting or building innovative startup business ecosystem here in the country. And then we have the foreign expert, so to speak, from Singapore, somebody who has a very out-of-the-box perspective. And I want to start with a very broad question. When we talk about building a truly innovative startup ecosystem, as I can read on the screen above you, what is more important, the money, the capital, or maybe some other factors? Joe.
I'll try. I think actually all the factors are important. So if you're looking at sort of becoming a center for where startups gravitate to, you will need the pool of entrepreneurs. You will need a pool of very talented sort of workforce, and you will need the money side of the picture, either strategic investors or venture capital. And all of these different subgroups really need to be looked after. It doesn't really happen by chance or by accident.
Well, I think to build this ecosystem to be full, you need all actors. I mean, both investors and startups or companies that investors want to invest in. And we need VC funds, we need accelerators and R&D places and so on. So we have to have all these institutions to make this system to be full.
Mm-hmm. Other perspective?
Yeah, I would say first of all that I would prefer to have efficient or effective ecosystem for startups, not necessarily innovative, because I want to have innovative startups, like maybe some of you guys sitting in the audience. What we should provide is the efficiency of the system and the money, absolutely, but having all the day through in the impact today with more and more visible Łukasiewicz network, research network. This is the missing part here, because we represent money, and Łukasiewicz or science, or as we say, science to business, we need some brilliant startups or brilliant new business models, new ideas to be ready to start the pipeline we could really finance. Because as we are as a bank in the very, very end of this nutrition, let's say, pipeline, we need, sorry for saying this again, bankable projects. So as simple as that.
Bartosz?
Okay, we've made in my company a work, and we compare two different rankings. First ranking is ranking of innovative countries. We have a lot of rankings. Poland is not at the top.
You mean the Global Innovation Index?
For example, yeah, this one. We are 30-something there, but we are fighting to be higher. And this is a first ranking. And the second ranking is richest countries of the world. And at the top of innovative countries, you have Swiss, Sweden, Denmark, Singapore, Israel, those countries. And they are very rich, but not the richest countries. So if the money was the most important thing. We will have at the top of innovative countries Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and countries like that. So I think money is important, but a lot of different issues are important too.
So the money is not the most important.
Maybe
here.
not the most, maybe most from the issues, but this is only one factor in ecosystem.
But on the other hand, your agencies or institutions that you represent, they basically act with money, as far as I understand,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or maybe,
but not only.
unlike the previous hero of the stage, Eliza Kruczkowska with the Polish Development Fund, they are doing a lot of soft skills training or soft instruments to boost entrepreneurship and build the innovative startup ecosystem here. And I was wondering, like, if you are to spend money on building startup ecosystem in a country, what kind of metrics or key performance indicators or objectives and key results or other frameworks you might have imagined, what kind of metrics do you use to track whether you are really on track?
Maybe I will say something about KFK, something that is maybe not very common, because you can get a lot of information about KFK, how many funds we have, how many startups these funds invested in, but the valuation of both startups and funds is not official. We evaluate both startups and our funds twice a year. And this is based on different methodologies. So startups apply Invest Euro methodology. Then we apply our own corrects or some we improve or this only to change these valuations, and then we have a third way of valuation that is net asset value, and our portfolio is about ratio of the we call this ratio total value to paid in capital. And this ratio is about a little bit less than 1 at the moment. So I think it's not very bad. So it says that both public and private investors have a chance to get their money back.
So, but for a fund of funds, it's easy, right? I mean, like the valuation of the portfolio or the total value paid in capital, it is kind of trackable metric. Yeah. What about the industry development agency?
It depends, because we have a lot of different projects, not only finance, as you said. Of course, we are financing big companies and give them money and help in restructurization. But since half a year, we have a new project loans for small companies. And I think KPIs there are very simple, as in bank. They have to money get back, and it's get the money back, and this is the KPI. But we have Open Innovation Network, for example. This is grant program, grants for transferring technology.
Equity free, right?
Yeah, equity free, and it's a program grant for SMEs. And we have KPIs there that the grant has to raise, in 3 years, has to raise the growing of money of those companies by 10%, 5, and for medium, and 10 in small companies. So it's not a very big number. What else? We have a few soft programs. For example, internships in Polish space companies, and there is very important for us that internship members should stay in Poland, in Polish company. We have very good number there. About 95% people work all the time in Polish companies. So I think the most important thing from your questions to have KPIs.
Whatever KPIs are better than non-KPIs.
Not whatever, but you know, a lot in Poland we do a lot of things because just do it.
Because we can.
Yeah,
because we want to achieve something.
yeah, we have money, let's do it. I think
Let's
we have
spend
to think it over and
evaluate the
and
efficiency.
about the future and about what will be in the future.
Very often when I look at all these state programs that finance entrepreneurship in Poland or venture capital funds, and by the way, you know, over half of all venture capital available in Poland for startups comes from the state. But I have an impression that there is no specific vertical where this money could accumulate and really help us build some competitive advantage in a specific niche. And when we talked with Ju before, you mentioned that in Singapore, fintech is, of course, everybody knows that fintech is very strong in Singapore, but then very specific platforms for forex trading, like for instance, right? This is very much connected also to policies about financing or providing grants to develop startups in that niche. So maybe you could share with us, how does it happen that Singapore has such a specified and acutely defined strategy for developing that particular segment of innovation?
Well, I'm speaking not as a representative for the state.
More like a user of the
like
state grants, right?
So just to qualify, but I think that it's been fairly deliberately done. I know of several high-level studies that first looked at where the competitive advantage is. I think it's clear that we want to be the financial center for Asia and South Asia. So the central bank is the entity that's disbursing the funding. And the funding is largely driven on 4 verticals: securities trading, foreign exchange trading, fixed income, which is bonds trading, as well as commodity trading. So closest to me are these 4 verticals. A lot of the funding is then sort of directed at startups that want to do something in this space. And I think we should also try to qualify between starting up a new business and the kind of startups that VCs would look at. In particular, you're not looking for companies that are operational companies. So you're not looking at putting in $1 million or 2 or 3 and having a company or a company that produces 300,000 a year returns, that kind of thing. You're looking at 1 million company going to 10 million, going to 100 million, going to 1 billion. So there are different types of sort of focus. If you're looking at facilitating something that needs to be done, so cheaper, better way of opening accounts, cheaper, better way of doing KYC, know your customers. That's a different type of startups relative to what you want to see in terms of high trajectory growth companies. And I think there's a need to sort of differentiate between the two as well.
Mm-hmm. When you design your programs at your agencies, or maybe not you, but when they become designed, how do you determine what particular branches or niches in technology you want to boost?
Okay. I can tell it because in innovative office, me and my people designed it. So we just looked at our portfolio because we have about 50 up to 70 companies, and we checked in which areas we are good. It was the first work, and the second work we tried to check what sectors are important for Poland, and now we have 5 of sectors.
So what are these sectors that are important for Poland today?
Gaming, video gaming. The second one is very small, but we are think there will be bigger space technologies, offshore, circular economy, GovTech, and Industry 4.0.
So 6.
6, sorry.
6
I forgot
strong
one.
pillars of innovation in Poland.
In my company, I think
What about batteries? Today we could hear the batteries.
We are operator of 2 special economic zones, and we have the biggest investor from few years, I think, in history of Poland. So LG invested more than 1 billion euros in fabric, and of course, I think batteries should be Polish specialization, because now we are the second company of producing batteries in Europe, but there is no Polish company. But it's a good thing. I think we should talk about it and to try to find out.
Adam, Andrzej, you...
Both in case of KFK and PFR Ventures, that is our successor, we do not choose actually the sector in which the funds we invest, because our let's say investment decision was to choose the best teams that would run, that would create a fund and would find the private investors.
So it's more like social engineering rather than...
and they decide in which sectors they will then invest. So we are mixing this private and public money, and let the professional managers to decide in which sectors to invest this money in.
We do have sectoral approach, and this is quite important, I would say, and probably it will be more and more important as we go further into strictly program approach in the future, as we observe the work of development bank in the whole world, and try to learn from best and be in the similar position as to be able to support Polish economy. When you mentioned about KPIs, I wanted to say that we are in quite easy position, because we have banking law on one hand, but on the other hand we have the mission. And the mission, if you could take the strategy for responsible development, this is the goal. This is the goal to support, as colleagues said, rather operational businesses than startups, however it happens. But in these areas that could really develop like disruptive technologies into the future. So we do care very much about TMT sector I'm responsible for. And innovation as a dimension that is as broad as the whole economy. But on the other hand, we do invest in and finance heavy infrastructure like highways. The road from Warsaw to Krakow is better each month, let's say.
Right.
So this is the goal.
Since we have a little more time left, I just want to show you that I'm really inspired by the book I'm currently reading. It's called the AI Superpowers by Kai Fu. Has anybody here read it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. It's a good book. It's a really good book. Anyway, he talks about how the mass entrepreneurship and mass innovation program has been introduced in China. And something that has really inspired me was his saying that, China pumped, like the Chinese Communist Party has pumped a lot of money, like the money that we don't see even here in Poland, into startups. And that program has proven to be, as he says, highly inefficient, with a lot of corruption going on and a lot of money leaking through the holes, but extremely effective, because it has started around 2013, and today China is really on the way to become an artificial intelligence superpower. And I feel like sometimes, or very often in Poland, when we talk about state funding, we are very fixed on this idea that the government programs have to be not only effective, but also efficient. So no Polish zloty can be spent on something irrational or useless. What would you say? How important is it for you and your programs to be both effective and efficient? What is more important, actually?
Of course, I understand my bosses that they are afraid about other agencies.
Three-letter acronyms, right? TLAs.
Yeah, of course. And I understand it. But I think we don't have to compare to China, because China is a bigger country, has huge money. Let's see at Singapore, which is one of the most ethical country at the world. Probably we will never, because of course the author of the book is comparing Silicon Valley to China. And he said that probably in 20 years China will win the war, but I'm not sure. There was in the history a lot of times that United States could lose war with Russia, with other countries. So I believe that democracy and Western and of course Eastern too democratic country will win the war.
Thank you very much, Zeno, because we have run out of time. And it's perfect. You have a very good timing, Bartosz, I must say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's enjoy Impact CE this year.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.